Okay, our end of June garden walkthrough. Starting over in our native flower garden. Got some wild bergamot or bee balm going over here. Very gorgeous purple flowers. First time growing that this year. Black-eyed Susans and Shasta daisies looking splendid. And got my bachelor buttons. They've already finished their flowering, starting to go to seed. And a big mess, but we got some Brussels sprouts growing down there below. And here's my beautiful dill. Dill's my all-time favorite. I love to let it go to seed and self-sow. Poppies starting to finish up. And even more poppies starting to finish up. This is starting to look a little ugly, but soon it'll all be gone. My blackberry coming on strong. And there we are. A good look at those blackberries coming on, soon to turn black. And over in this corner, more poppies, more weeds. But the poppies, I love to let these things go to seed. There's the seed pods. And over here we got some zinnias growing, a little bit of mustard going to seed as well. Bees really love these mustard flowers, so despite their hideous appearance, I do like to let them flower. Spoon tomatoes and a lavender plant. That lavender was just planted this year, so it will get big next year. A little bit of penstemon there. And that's how tall a penstemon can get. It's about 5 feet tall, also going to seed. Alongside the penstemon, we got more of those mustard flowers and kind of a tangle of other wildflowers. We got bachelor buttons, we got gilia, we got some cosmos popping through, and a little bit of oregano. You can see that in the middle. There are the cosmos. These boys are about to flower. Love cosmos. That's probably my favorite flower to grow. Close, maybe, to the zinnia. Zinnia is also fantastic. And there it is, a little spread out look at it. Gangly and ugly right now, but that'll clean up here in a bit. And here is oregano that I've let gone to seed. Might be a mistake that I'm going to regret next year, but I do love that oregano flower. It is a very gorgeous little tiny purple flower. Next to the oregano, we can see the not poppies, pansies. Pansies, so many pansies, violas or violets. These are just holding on strong. I don't even think I can kill them at this point. I think that these are going to be a permanent addition to this garden no matter what I do, but that's okay. Ever since watching Alice in Wonderland, I'm a huge violet fan. And these ones are my favorite color variation here. The purple with a yellow inset. And right next to them we have that lighter color variation, and I've always been told that these are Johnny Jump-Ups, little tiny volunteer violets that self-sow off of the bigger ones. Here's a look at the pink yarrow, another gorgeous wildflower that we have around here. And there's a close-up of those very beautiful pink and purple flowers. This is a horehound, another self-sown thing, but great for clearing up mucousy coughs. And another batch of cosmos right next to the horehound. This is a strawberry. It's one of the white strawberries, a white pineberry. Very, very delicious. And right next to it, we got a couple of snapdragons. Here we have my tomato clones. They're going in that pot. And next to the tomato clones, I have a couple of sweet potatoes. My first year growing sweet potatoes. And they're looking really happy in that 10-gallon cloth growing bag. Headed up the trellis, we have a Pippin's Golden Pumpkin. This is a smaller pumpkin, but it is growing so tall. This plant is about 5 feet tall growing up the trellis. We have some other mini pumpkins planted alongside, but they have not yet grown very large. They are not yet trellising up. But by the end of the season, we will have pumpkins hanging down through this trellis walkway. Over here in the phlox corner, we got a bunch of things growing. We got some phlox, we got some dahlias, we got some sunflowers, and we have a lot of yarrow. In the pots, I have some forget-me-nots and a couple of eggplants. And here's another look. Another view, this from the center. You can get a real good look at the phlox, a little bit of a look at the artichoke. Artichoke is a perennial vegetable that hopefully will be coming back year after year. Have some poppies in there that have gone to seed. Those poppies make so many seeds that you can put into a poppy seed muffin or so. They are the edible type of poppy. And here's a better look at that phlox that is growing. Such a lovely flower. I only planted a handful of those last year, and they keep going to seed. They are extremely happy in this part of the garden. Behind the phlox, we have some sunflowers, we have some yarrow, and we have a couple of onions and alliums going to seed. Here we got a closer look at those phlox flowers. You can see all the different variations. There was only a single color variation last year, so I'm glad to see all these different types of varieties coming out, including all white. And here is a sweet onion flower getting pollinated by a little honeybee. And these pink alliums are actually from leeks, so leeks have a very beautiful kind of pinkish purple hue to them. Here's my first sunflower, first of many. I will have these all throughout my garden by the end of August. And right below the sunflowers, we have some of those poppies. Again, end of the day, but they will have seeds and self-sowing soon. Here's another patch of wildflowers that were starting to grow. You can see the bachelor buttons here. And there's a look at some snapdragons we have planted. On the other side of our wildflower garden, we are growing a lot of cosmos, dill, and about 7 different varieties of pumpkin or squash. Back there in the corner there, I have a birdhouse gourd. That is my first birdhouse that I've grown, and it's getting pretty happy. It's starting to climb up. Hopefully we'll get a couple of gourds out of it. And in the back along the other fence, we have the snowball tree, a couple of eggplants in the foreground, and even more pumpkins. This bigger pumpkin plant that we're about to look at is it's a volunteer from when I buried a Long Island cheese pumpkin in the ground. So hopefully those all come up as true Long Island cheese pumpkins here in a month or two. And a wide look at the pepper box. Got some peppers, we got some basil in there. A little closer look at everything intermixed. I have Thai basil, I have lime basil, and at least 12 pepper plants in there, all different sweet and spicy peppers. And that's a closer look at my favorite sweet pepper. This is the Lesia pepper. It will turn red, and it's about heart-shaped, very thick-celled. Jerusalem artichoke in the background, and then some snapdragons and oregano in the foreground. Again, oregano in the foreground. We have some beets planted in there, and some tomatoes and carrots in the background. This is the garlic box. I've already harvested a couple of garlics. You can see in the front corner there's one ready to pull, and the other should be ready here before we know it. In this garden, I have a yarrow that is extremely tall, a sunflower trying to compete for sun compared to the yarrow, and some poppies going to seed. There's the yarrow. This yarrow is a mixed one. I have white, pink, and purple flowers. I think they're all different plants, but they mat together really well to give this kind of variation of colors from a single plant. A little bit of leek there in the foreground, and along the fence you can see what will be a great white tomato. And at the wraparound garden, I have just even too much to list. We have green beans, we have yarrow, we have some Russian sage, we have some lavender, we got some blueberry plants. And amongst the blueberry plants, I have a little strawberry. This is another white pine berry that is growing underneath. I'm very excited to have two kinds of berries growing right next to each other there. Closer look at the blueberries. Had an amazing blueberry harvest this year. Hundreds, if not 1,000 blueberries on those 3 bushes. Here's our raspberry plant, also very productive. You can see a good little bushel there at the top of the screen. Here's borage. Borage is another one of my favorite flowers. There is no blue like it anywhere else in the garden. Echinacea, or cone flower. This is probably the best plant you can plant in your garden if you're trying to get bees. Pollinators love this plant more than any other in my garden. Here's a wide look at the tomato wall. It is coming together quite nicely, already starting to produce some fruit on some of the plants. $12 different varieties of tomato there. And we got some green beans growing into some sweet peas. It's going to make an interesting harvest because sweet peas are highly poisonous and they look exactly like green beans. So here is my kale, yarrow, corn, and my other tomato garden. I have about 6 or 7 varieties of tomato here. Closer look of that corn. This is my first year growing corn. Very excited. I have 3 varieties of corn. Japanese Hollis popcorn, I have a mixed blue, and a sweet red corn. Outside look at the beast. Take a closer look. Here are my carrots. These I let go to flower because I just really like the flower. I might like the carrot flower more than I like eating carrots. Bees also love it. Another look at some plants there, and my boy. Another thing I grow in my garden. Got some tomatoes, I have some okra, and I have a couple of Brussels sprouts back there. Another look at those tomatoes. You can listen to my son talk about the tomatoes here.
Hey, those tomatoes are growing. Look at all those tomatoes that are growing. That's what tomatoes that you're growing.
It is a lot of tomatoes that we're growing.
Why are you growing a lot of tomatoes?
because you love tomatoes. Don't you remember? You love to go pick tomatoes out in the garden. And we do love to grow those tomatoes for Milo. He is a huge fan of them. Kale, Brussels sprouts, have some endive growing in the shade. And the last little bit we'll talk about here are to the left of that Brussels sprout plant. I've got my Asa Craig onions, which I'm not in the correct zone for, so they're going to be ready soon. Probably not too big, though. Thank you for joining. Let's grow.